Welcome to Inside Image, presented by Seismic Sound Off. I'm your host, Andrew Gary. Inside Image is back for 2026, and we have some great conversations ahead. We will look at recent events in Venezuela and Colombia, the challenge of rebuilding geoscience education, what AI may change for the interpreter, and celebrating 20 years of Geoscientists Without Borders along with 100 years of SLB. And that is only a fraction of what is coming. Check the show notes for the full schedule. And if you are in Houston, visit Society Central to see the conversations live. To begin our second year, I wanted to bring back two conversations from Image 2025 that feel especially relevant now. Earlier today in the opening session, ExxonMobil's John Ardill talked about how the company is quicker to sell acreage and no longer plans to pursue rather than simply hold on to it. That immediately reminded me of something Peter Duncan told me at Image last year. Peter described the other side of that process. As major companies merge and shed properties, experienced geoscientists form new independents, acquire those assets, and start looking for the technology and expertise they need to develop them. For smaller companies, that churn can create opportunity. And Peter's own story shows that opportunity can come from somewhere even less expected. A company approached MicroSeismic at Image about monitoring sinkholes after a costly event in Florida. That conversation eventually grew into several $1 million a year in ongoing work. Next is Susan Nash, AAPG's Director of Innovation, Emerging Science and Technology. She picks up that theme from another direction. Susan sees growing demand for understanding the subsurface across natural gas, geothermal, lithium, produced water, and energy storage. That is one reason being in the room still matters. The useful connection may be between two ideas, two companies, or two applications that neither side knew to look for. I'm excited to welcome you back for the second series of Inside Image. Please check out the full schedule in the show notes, and I hope to see you at Society Central. Now, let's join the discussion with Peter Duncan and Susan Nash.
I'm Peter Duncan. I'm president, CEO, founder of MicroSeismic, Inc. And in a word, image is something I would never miss. That's not one word, but it's something I would never, unmissable.
Why is your company MicroSeismic coming to Image year after year?
Well, I think, number one, it is certainly, as SEG and now Image, it's the premier geophysical forum where you get to, where people come, kind of like a bazaar, where the clients come to see what's new, to see who's still in business, to conveniently be able to talk to you. Surely, if one of my clients were to call me up and say, could you come over and give a presentation at our company? We're there the next day. We're there right away. But here, we can set up our booth, set up our demonstrations that we want to show that are our latest changes. And we know that a good fraction of our client base is going to be here to talk to us. Also, I don't just bring my sales folks. I bring a good sampling of my technical folks. And one advantage of it being in Houston, it's easier for me to bring a bigger sample of my technical folks. And they get to go around and listen to talks and maybe get some ideas spurred in their mind about how to do their job better. So it works both ways. We get exposed to new technology. We get to walk around and see what our competitors are doing that we should be doing. And we're sitting there very conveniently available to all of our client base. So I'm happy to spend that money every year. And I think to a certain extent, it's almost required that you demonstrate to the marketplace that you're still in business.
What would you tell to a new company or a possible new exhibitor for Image? You mentioned you pay in advance for this thing, but if they're thinking what makes coming to Image a good decision for companies that maybe have not been on the exhibition floor before?
Well, I think I know some of my peers or competitors who've decided to step away from taking a booth and just troll the floors. Sure. And I think that's not a good strategy. I think if you've got a well-established name and you know what clients to look for, that you can come and find your established client base. But new clients, and this happens, and I'm not saying we make sales on the floor here. That's rare. But we make contacts on the floor. And we have people who come up to the booth who say, well, I've heard about your company. Can you tell me more about it? And then they become a contact that we chase later. And certainly, international contacts are much more readily made here. It's a lot easier to set up a booth and have these international folks who've been sent by their companies to go shopping for my kinds of services. It's much easier for them to come and find me at my booth than for me to travel to Istanbul and talk to one client and then travel to Cairo and talk to one client. Because those clients that are serious about needing your services, they'll seek you out, and they know that this is the venue to seek you out. An anecdote, we have, beginning in 2018, we have expanded our services into a different area. It's actually listening for karst development, subsurface. The karsts will spall from their ceilings, the karst caves, the voids. The ceilings spall, and then they'll daylight, they hit the surface, and that can be an environmentally and economically disastrous thing. So in 2017, we're here with our booth and the name up, and this company that we would never have thought to market to, they came to us and said, look, we had one of these sinkhole events last year in Florida. It cost our company nearly $100 million to fix it, and the environmental disaster meant that the regulators nearly took our license away. Your company sounds like you might be able to help us, do you think? Well, we would have never gone and knocked on their door. They sought us out. And that's turned into representing several millions of dollars a year in ongoing contract value, which has surely paid for any money we've spent at the SEG. We might spend $50,000 a year on this, something like that, let's say. And we're getting much more than that returned. So they don't happen every year. And then, of course, the other thing that happens, our industry is on the oil and gas side particularly, it's really an industry that exemplifies that entropy is always increasing. So by that I mean you build up the large companies, the Shells, the Exxons, the Oxys, the Apaches, and they buy up a bunch of properties, and then they merge, and when they merge, they throw off a certain percentage of this that they say is property that they don't want to pursue. And what happens is all the independents, the little guys, and some of these are guys who maybe have been laid off from Shell or Oxy or Exxon or whatever. They're resilient, they're resourceful, they're smart, and they go out and they buy up little pieces of property and they start exploiting them. And so every year when we come here, there is a whole new batch of companies that I wouldn't have known to call on. I might know the individuals, but I don't know their corporate name, and I would never find them. But they come here and they say, well, Peter, we got a new company, it's Nucor, da-da-da-da-da, and we've brought some ex-Shell stuff, and you've worked in this area. And I wouldn't know to go call on them necessarily. They come and they know they can find me here.
Because you've been coming for so long.
Because we've been coming, and they know this is the bazaar to come shopping. If you're looking for gold, you go to the gold souk in Dubai. If you're looking for geophysical technology and you're kind of starting with a clean page, you come here.
Any final thoughts you would like to leave with the audience?
If you're not here, shame on you.
That's a great place, Peter. Well, thank you very much for your time, and enjoy. Hopefully you get some rest tonight after the party last night, and have a good final day.
Hi, I'm Susan Nash, and I'm at AAPG. I'm Director of Innovation, Emerging Science, and Technology, and I just love the role because it's so flexible and I get to explore a lot of things, including geology. And one of the things that you ask is what makes me passionate about geology, and I will say that passion started really young. My dad was a geologist, petroleum and mining, and so I would go out with him to like prospecting in Nevada or Arizona and see rocks in the wild, and he would describe what we were looking at, and that fascinated me. And then of course I loved dinosaurs, and I had my little plastic dinosaur collection, and we would go out to wells that he was drilling. I didn't stay on the well. I was like little, but he would say, "Oh, well, this dinosaur was living at the time that this formation was. You're looking at a rock, and this rock had dinosaurs or fossils. Like this had trilobites, or
Yeah.
And it was so interesting.
It's a new thing for Image today. So this is Thursday that we're speaking. I spoke with Nicole Hagler yesterday, who's running the K through 12 initiative, and they're actually bringing elementary students and middle school students into Image for the first time this year. So you had a father, thankfully, who could introduce you, but yeah, hopefully we can get more kids introduced to what the geosciences can be about.
I think it's really, really important, and I know that there's a tendency now to take out earth sciences from the schools. And so like when I was in high school, it was required. You had a whole year of earth science, and they explained it was geology as well as everything else dealing with the earth, which is weather, etc. But it was fascinating, and I just think that it needs to be incorporated in, and also very much in terms of well, I know that the plate tectonics are taught, but the actual rocks themselves and like how to identify them, what's a sandstone, what's a carbonate, and the environment, the depositional environments, because that's where the magic happens.
What brought you to Image this year?
Job, no.
I mean, you joke that your job brought you here, but jobs bring many people here. That's why they're here. The goal is to take things that they learn at Image back to their job to feed into that and to know. So what are you going to be taking back to your work based on the sessions and the conversations you've been having here?
Okay, well, a couple of things that they're kind of affirming. So maybe this is cognitive bias and confirmation bias, but they're confirming what I was the directions I was thinking we needed to go, and so there was a talk yesterday by Jesse Thompson, who's a senior economist at the Dallas Federal Reserve, and he was talking about the energy outlook. And he spent a lot of time focusing on natural gas and the importance of the producers to be able to find markets. And those markets have to do a lot with exports in LNG. So he talked about so I thought, okay, this is good. I'm glad to hear this, because I was thinking that was the case, because he also talked about all the different terminals that are expanding. But then he talked about, and this is something that's been in the air and everybody's talking about it, but the energy needs in terms of electricity and the grid, not just data centers, but in terms of community growth and aging infrastructure, and the connection between that and the natural gas and the need for markets really makes a compelling business case for putting together sort of modular, just banks of modular turbines, while larger, more permanent things are built, to have that are natural gas fired.
The thing, and I see it in your face, and I've had it in a lot of conversations around here, you get a consistent excitedness about the geosciences, about where the industry is heading in general, I would say, or the prospects of what it could bring. So that, there's a bunch of geoscientists in business and academia here that understand that. What would you like to share with the greater public about what you're learning here and what you're hearing here that you would like them to understand and hear about the needs of the geoscience industry moving forward?
Okay, so I think it's really, really important to understand the subsurface. I mean, look at the surface, look at the processes, what causes karst and caves and deposition and sand bodies, and then understand them in the subsurface and why. And it's because of I'll just say specifically energy, not just natural gas, not just oil, but geothermal, and also in the brines, produced waters, we have all different kinds of things like lithium, but also we are the world's leader in the production of iodine. And that comes from produced water, the wastewater from oil and gas wells, mainly oil wells in Oklahoma. And some people don't know that, and we have these resources that we can use. Also, energy storage. What can we pump down there to use to make our environment better and do things to clean up the environment and reduce emissions? So it's so important.
So you mentioned you're getting some confirmation bias, or just maybe you're reading the tea leaves well and you're getting that confirmed. But has anything happened here where it surprised you, or you didn't think about that, or you were thinking about it a different way and now you're...
Yeah, so I'm really looking at things a little bit differently. For example, all the talk about AI, we've been talking about large language models, and we've talked about, scraping the internet or using, training the models on repositories of articles or reports or just, but all language-based. Well, there was a very interesting talk by Andrew Davidoff, and he talked about teaching the rocks to speak. And so he was talking about a large language model using geology, and I thought, oh yeah, no big deal. It's just more articles. But he wasn't talking about that at all. He was talking about taking Google Earth and all the core data and everything a step further, so that it's actually looking at the actual rocks and being able to do interpretive things, which will require a lot of data gathering. But it made me think, okay, every single thing we have with text is an interpretation. It's been synthesized into language, so it may or may not prove to be valid. And so I think that's a pitfall of where we are in this rapid pace. We need subject matter experts, but if we're subject matter experts and we're already biased because we've learned through paper and language, how can we change that?
Yeah. What would you like to say, Image is starting to wrap up. It's the last day of technical sessions that we're here. What would you like to say for people listening to this, maybe in the future, about why they should attend Image in 2026?
Well, I think that the reason to attend is because you can learn a lot by doing research online, and you can learn a lot by contacting or talking to people in like a virtual environment. But you miss the nuances, and you miss the juxtaposition of ideas that you will get, especially just even on the exhibit hall floor. You have companies that are next to each other, and you start making these associations, and you start thinking, and it's just a creative immersion experience, as well as networking and all that.
Yeah, Peter Duncan from MicroSeismic yesterday was saying how he was running into companies on the show floor where he would have just never even thought that there was applications for his products or them to market to that company. But when you're there, things happen. You start to see connections you didn't see otherwise.
Well, exactly. And plus, because people are changing their products and they're changing their services really quickly, they are evolving. And so you can help them on that journey.
If you had to sum up your Image experience in 3 words, what would it be?
I'm sure these are the same words everybody uses. I loved it.
Thank you for joining me here on Inside Image. The conversations you've heard today capture the energy, ambition, and collaborative spirit that make Image such a vital gathering for our community. Be sure to catch our highlight episodes, social media clips, and post-event recap, extending the best moments far beyond this week. I'm Andrew Gary. Thanks for listening, and here's to the innovations ahead.